The story opens with a terrifying scene. A girl named Annie is running desperately out of her house onto the street. She is extremely frightened, as if some invisible force is chasing her, even though the street is empty as far as the eye can see. Overwhelmed by fear, she runs back inside, only to sprint out again moments later. She quickly takes her car and drives to a beach. Once there, she tearfully calls her dad. Her voice is full of sorrow. She tells him, "I love you all very much, and please forgive me for any mistakes I have made. I might not be alive for much longer." The very next morning, we see Annie's dead body lying on the beach. She was mysteriously and brutally killed by someone or something during the night. This raises the question, who killed her so mercilessly, and what was that mysterious thing she was so afraid of? We will find the answers later in the story. Next, we meet another girl in the city named Jay Height, referred to as Yenny in the transcript, who is swimming calmly. Her sister Kelly comes over and asks her about her new boyfriend, Hugh, referred to as Harry in the transcript. Jay says she is going on a date with Hugh tonight and is quite excited. When she comes inside the house, she finds her two friends, Paul and Yara, have come to visit. Paul looked a little upset upon hearing about Jay's date, as he secretly had strong feelings for her. In the following scene, Jay and Hugh go to watch a movie. During the film, Hugh suddenly sees a girl in a yellow dress. He quickly asks Jay, "Do you see a girl in a yellow dress over there?" Jay is confused and says no, she can't see anyone. Hearing this, Hugh becomes very panicked and immediately takes Jay outside the theater. Later that night, the two have dinner at a restaurant, which helps them get to know each other better. The next evening, they go to a beach. While talking, they start kissing. Jay suggests they should go to the car. They then move to the car and become intimate. This was Jay's first date, and she felt very happy and excited about this moment of enjoyment. However, this happy moment suddenly takes a terrifying turn when Hugh abruptly makes Jay unconscious. When Jay regains consciousness, she finds herself tied up in a wheelchair. Hugh was nearby talking to her while shining a flashlight around, looking for something. He reveals a horrifying truth to Jay. "I have been cursed, which is why an entity, spirit or evil force, is constantly following me to kill me." He explains that he got this curse after becoming intimate with a bartender, and this has been happening ever since. He says, "I realized the only way to escape this was to become intimate with someone else, so the curse would transfer to them. That's why I had to do this with you. Now this curse has been transferred to you." Hugh further explains that Jay will now be able to see the entity and it will chase Jay in the same way it followed him. He warns her, remember, it is extremely dangerous and cunning, and it can take the form of anyone to follow you. It always comes walking slowly. Hugh adds, "If you get caught, it will kill you, and then it will start chasing me again. Therefore, the sooner you become intimate with someone else and transfer the curse to them, the better." Just then, a dreadful sight appears. The entity arrives there in the form of a girl, visible only to Jay and Hugh, and starts slowly moving towards them. Now Jay can also clearly see it. Hugh quickly frees Jay from the wheelchair, pulls her away, and drops her off outside her house. Her friends rush to comfort her. The police soon arrive, but Jay is unable to give them much information about Hugh. The next morning, the police investigate the location, but they find nothing about Hugh, as he was from another town and no one knew him here. A few days later, Jay goes to school. While attending class, she looks outside and sees an old woman in a hospital gown slowly walking towards her. Jay immediately realizes that this is the entity, and she runs out of the classroom in fear. The old woman continues to follow her, walking slowly behind her. Jay quickly takes her car and drives home. Upon reaching home, she immediately tells Kelly and Paul about this terrifying experience, but they don't believe her as they couldn't see anything. However, Paul says, "Tonight I will stay at Jay's house and keep watch all night." When night falls, Jay is lying next to her sister Kelly, but can't sleep. She gets up and goes to Paul, who is watching TV on the sofa. As they talk, they suddenly hear the sound of breaking glass coming from the kitchen. Paul goes to check and comes back telling Jay that the kitchen window is broken, but there is no one there. Then he goes upstairs to call Kelly. Jay gets up and goes to the kitchen, and there she sees the entity, which this time is in the form of a scary little girl, slowly approaching her. Seeing this, she gets extremely terrified and runs to her room and locks the door. Kelly and Paul come and ask her to open the door. She opens it, but since they couldn't see the entity, they still had trouble believing her. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Everyone gets scared, but when they open the door, it's Yara. But here comes another frightening twist. The entity also appears right behind Yara, or perhaps it takes the form of a menacing man, as depicted in some scenes. Seeing this, Jay jumps off the balcony of the house in fear, takes a bicycle, and cycles away until she reaches a playground and sits down there. After some time, all her friends, Kelly, Paul, Yara, and their neighbor Greg, come looking for her. Jay tells them everything again, and together they make a plan. They must first find Hugh. They all leave in Greg's car and arrive at Hugh's place. When they get to the house, they see that it is completely empty, and all the belongings are scattered. Hugh had been renting the house alone, and after transferring the curse to Jay, he left. Meanwhile, Paul finds some of Hugh's books, which contain an old photo of Hugh with a girl. This girl is none other than Annie, whose dead body we saw at the beginning of the story. Now the question is, who killed Annie? In the photo, Annie is wearing a specific jacket, which Jay recognizes and says she knows which school it belongs to. To find out more, they go to that school, where they discover that Hugh's real name is Jeff Rednant. Taking his address, they all go to Jeff's house. Jeff meets them and apologizes to Jay. He says, "I had no other option to get rid of this curse, which is why I had to do this." He tells Jay, "It would be better for you to quickly transfer this curse to someone else so it stops following you." He advises her, if it comes to kill you, be careful and try to distract it so you can buy some time to escape. Jeff reveals that he transferred the curse to a girl named Annie, but she died, and the entity came after him again, forcing him to transfer it to Jay. He warns, now if Jay dies, it will come after me again. Therefore, Jay needs to become intimate with someone else as soon as possible so the curse transfers to them and the entity stops chasing Jay. To keep Jay safe, all her friends decide to take her to Greg's farmhouse. After some time, night falls, and everyone sleeps in a room. The next morning, Greg teaches Jay how to handle and fire a gun. Afterward, they are all spending time together at the beach. Suddenly, we see the entity, this time in the form of Yara, attack Jay by grabbing her hair. Paul tries to save her, but the entity hits him, sending him flying some distance and tries to hurt everyone. They all manage to get Jay inside a boathouse. Jay then takes the gun and starts shooting at the entity, but it has no effect. Jay locks the door, but shortly after, the entity, now in the form of Paul, breaks the door and starts coming in. Terrified, Jay immediately flees, takes Greg's car, and drives away fast. Her friends try hard to stop her, but Jay doesn't stop and speeds away. Suddenly, another car comes in front of her, causing her to have an accident. When Jay wakes up, she finds herself in the hospital. She is extremely scared and feels that the entity will appear there again. Then we see Greg come in, and with Jay's consent, he becomes intimate with her right there in the hospital, hoping that Jay's curse will transfer to him and he can help Jay fight the entity. Several days pass in this manner. During this time, Jay doesn't see any entity, but she still spends most of her time at home and remains troubled. On the other hand, we see Greg meeting Jay's friends. They ask Greg, "Did you see anything?" Greg takes it casually and says, "So far, I haven't seen any entity, but maybe what Jay sees is real. Or maybe it's her imagination, but we should probably wait longer." Saying this, he leaves. That same night, Jay is looking out the window towards Greg's house. She sees that Greg slowly came from somewhere and broke his own house window to climb inside. She realizes that this is not Greg, but the entity in his form. She immediately calls Greg, but his line is busy. She quickly rushes towards Greg's house and climbs inside through the same broken window. When she goes towards Greg's room to warn him, she sees that the entity, now in the form of Greg's mom, is knocking on his door. Jay shouts, "Greg, please don't open the door. Your life is in danger."
But Greg doesn't understand and opens the door. As soon as he opens it, the entity attacks Greg and kills him. Jay is extremely terrified by this and runs away, taking a car. She sees that the entity is now chasing her again. She doesn't stop the car, drives far away, and spends the night inside the car in a remote location. The next morning, she drives back home. There, Paul comes to Jay and says, "I want to become intimate with you so that this entity starts following me." But Jay refuses and says, "This entity will kill all of us one by one." In the next scene, Jay and all her friends make a plan to kill the entity. They all drive away from home to a swimming pool. After reaching there, they place many electric machines around the pool. Their plan was that when the entity comes there looking for Jay, they would give it an electric shock and kill it. Jay then gets into the pool and starts waiting for the entity to arrive. After a long wait, the entity finally appears, but it does not step into the pool, perhaps having understood their plan. Instead, it starts throwing the electric machines at Jay one by one, injuring her and putting her in trouble inside the pool. Just then, Paul takes a gun and is about to shoot the entity, but he cannot see it. Kelly quickly throws a cloth over the entity, and then Paul shoots it. The entity falls into the water. They were just about to pull Jay out of the pool when the entity grabs her leg and pulls her back into the water. Paul starts shooting at the entity again, and a bullet hits the entity in the head, causing it to let go of Jay. They then manage to pull Jay out of the pool. The entity is no longer visible, but the pool water slowly turns red with its blood. However, they still doubt whether the entity is dead or not, as like everyone else, Jay only saw its blood. Therefore, upon returning home, Jay reluctantly agrees to Paul's suggestion, and she becomes intimate with Paul so that the curse transfers to him and he can help her. A few days pass like this, and neither of them sees any entity now. They start believing that the entity might be dead and won't come after them anymore. But in the final moments of the story, as Paul and Jay are walking together holding hands, an entity is seen walking slowly behind them, and with this chilling scene, the story ends, leaving the question of whether this horrifying cycle will ever truly stop.